And warn the inhabitants of said town of Acton qualified to vote in town affairs to assemble at the Acton Elementary School on April 5th, 2011 at 6 o'clock in the evening to act on the following Acton School warrant articles. Article 1, to choose a moderator for said meeting.
I'd like to nominate Richard Nass.
Richard Nass has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations for moderator are closed. Moderator needs to be voted by secret ballot. Anybody that wishes to vote, please come forward. Mr. Nass, you have been elected moderator. Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Richard Nass, do swear to support the Constitution of the United States
Support the Constitution of the United States.
and the laws of the state
And the laws of the state.
as a town of Acton moderator,
Town of Acton moderator.
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof,
As long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
so help me God. Signature here. I've appointed 2 deputy moderators for the election, Carl Litchfield and Peg Anthony, silent moderator. Okay.
Thank you and good evening. Unless there's objection, we'll conduct this meeting as we normally do with the guidance from the main moderator's manual, which looks like this, which is a very modest set of rules. The simpler the better, I think is their theory. So unless there's objections, that will be our guidance for tonight. Number 2, we have, as we always have at the school meetings, some folks that we might want to hear from. It's easier if we, and who are non-residents of Acton, so it's easier if we recognize that fact and allow them to speak, at least in my opinion now. So I have Jennifer Rue, in case there's some procedure issues, the town clerk, Alton Hadley, our superintendent, Trish Halliday, our principal, Trish is here, Sandy Ward, Sandy's here, Colleen Doyle, Colleen is here. Any of those people who are non-residents may or may not speak tonight unless there is objection. So without objection, we'll allow those folks and assume you all have approved that. Okay, it is our purpose tonight to go through the school articles. When we get to Article 14, you've all been given a written ballot that looks like this. So we're going to vote the ballot after we handle the question as we normally do. Collect the ballots, process them. We have several articles after that, so there's still business we can do. And then report on the results, hopefully about the time that we're done. So has anybody got any procedural questions or anything else they want to talk about? Okay. So as it says here in the warrant, Articles 2 through 12 authorize expenditures in cost center categories for the school. So that's what we'll go through for the next 11 articles. Article 2, to see what's on the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for regular instruction. The school committee recommends $2,629,245. The warrant finance committee also recommends $2,629,245. What's your pleasure, Judy?
Mr. Moderator, I make a motion that we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the school committee's recommendation on Article 1. Article 2. Are there questions or comments on Article 2? Seeing none, the motion on Article 2 is to adopt the article as recommended by the school committee. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 2 is adopted as recommended by the school committee. And I'm glad everybody, without instruction, we're using the cards tonight. I forgot to tell you that. So the purple cards will get your vote properly recorded. Article 3, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for special education. School committee recommends $941,340. Warrant and Finance Committee recommends $941,340. Judy.
Mr. Moderator, make a recommendation that we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded on Article 3 to adopt the school committee's recommendation. Are there questions or comments? Yes, sir. You need to come on up to the mic.
I'm just trying to follow along on your dollar recommendations. I would imagine that they go along with this chart that are here for your budget comparison. Are those figures in there under that
They go
particular
along
year?
with the budget figures.
Or inside this other one? So then this is worthless information.
Well, it's not worthless if you want to compare what the town has been spending for education over the past couple years.
You know, I was just thinking that those figures would match up as you have here for 11. I see your years go from 03 to 012, but the figures don't match up with what you have on the warrant articles, and I was just trying to question as to the why of that.
But if you look inside the budget booklet, you will find those figures that go along with the warrant articles.
Is it a matter of different years, perhaps? Is that,
Yes.
no?
I would imagine that they would have the figures under the warrant articles for 11, 12 years, those figures aren't here. But, I mean, I guess we have to look.
Is there further explanation from the superintendent?
You may find that under the chart that you have for the past 10 years, budget comparisons, you'll find special ed in several different areas. In what you're voting on is a combination of all those areas added together, not separated. So it's difficult to make a comparison with that, with the money spent for the last 10 years. They're in different, some of them are in different categories.
I would imagine you'd have them all grouped under special ed with total dollar figures that you're asking.
They are in the budget book. You'll see the areas that are added together. And if you go back down through the budget comparison for the last 10 years, you will find each one of those categories listed in the various places. You put those all together and the budget then would match each other, the total amount, the total dollars.
Further questions?
And
Okay, if you're going to go, we need to get you up with the mic if you want to keep going, which is fine.
If you look on page 4 of your budget booklet, you'll see the 6 different accounts that come under special education. And if you add those accounts together, you'll come up with a figure that you want to have.
so we're looking at the line items on page 4 of each specific account for special education.
Down at the bottom of the
And
page.
that's the breakdown of per line as far as the budget was presented, of what each department or each area of that special ed is broken down.
Correct.
So we just have, I guess as far as the article comes out, you're asking for something to come out. I don't know if everyone has or has not. Obviously, I have not looked at each particular area to come up with those figures. So, okay. Thank you for answering the question.
Further questions or comments on Article 3?
I have an answer for that.
He's looking at this sheet which says 855, 458. And on the warrant for special ed, it says 941, 340. The difference between those two numbers is 85,882, which is the Explore budget, which must be listed on this piece of paper in a different spot.
Further questions on Article 3? Seeing none, the motion on Article 3 is to adopt the article as recommended by the school committee. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 3 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 4, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for career and technical education. School committee recommends 0. Warrant Finance Committee recommends 0. Judy.
I make a motion, we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt Article 4 as recommended by the school committee. Are there any questions or comments? Somebody want to explain why this is 0?
Because we don't have a vocational
Okay.
program.
Okay, but we have to have the article? Is that, okay, just so everybody knows why we're doing this. Any questions? All those, so the motion on Article 4 is to adopt the article as recommended by the school committee. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. Cards down. Those opposed? Article 4 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 5, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for other instruction. School committee recommends $27,664. Warrant and Finance Committee recommends $27,664. Is there a motion?
I make the motion, we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the school committee's recommendation on Article 5. Are there questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion on Article 5 is to adopt the school committee's recommendation. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 5 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 6, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for student and staff support. School committee recommends $254,633. Warrant and Finance Committee recommends $254,633. Judy.
I make a motion, we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the school committee's recommendation on Article 6. Are there questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion on Article 6 is to adopt the school committee's recommendation. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 6 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 7, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for system administration. School committee recommends $197,782. Warrant Finance Committee recommends $197,782. Judy.
Mr. Moderator, make a motion that we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the school committee's recommendation on Article 7. Are there questions? Seeing none, the motion on Article 7 is to adopt the school committee's recommendation. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 7 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 8, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for school administration. School committee recommends $148,846. Warrant and Finance Committee recommends $148,846. Judy.
I make a motion, we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the school committee's recommendation on Article 8. Are there questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 8 as recommended by the school committee, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 8 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 9, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for transportation and buses. School committee recommends $240,983. Warrant Finance Committee recommends $240,983. Judy.
I make a motion that we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the school committee's recommendation on Article 9. Are there comments or questions? Seeing none, the motion on Article 9 is to adopt the school committee's recommendation. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you, hands down. Those opposed? Article 9 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 10, to see what's on the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for facilities maintenance. School committee recommends $404,126. Warrant Finance Committee recommends $404,126 with 3 yes votes, and Andy Brazier abstaining from voting. Judy.
I make a motion, we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the school committee's recommendation on Article 10. Are there questions or comments? Yes, sir.
On the facility maintenance, is that inclusive of the roof for the gym? In that part of the maintenance?
There's a question on the roof.
There are 2 capital improvement projects that we'll be placing on the June warrant for the general town meeting in June, and one of those will be for the roof, and the second one is for updating the intercom system, which is very antiquated and not working here now. So those will be separate articles that the town can decide whether or not they want to move those two projects forward. They're both capital improvement projects.
So then those $2 amounts is totally separate from what the school,
Correct.
but yet still, you'll still be asking the taxpayer to provide money for those 2.
Yes.
So in actuality, whatever the final number here is, the school will be asking for more than what the final number is.
There will be 2 articles, 2 additional articles on the town warrant. I'll let the selectmen address that.
Yeah, what we've done is, just like when we put the generator out back, we're going to have it on the town floor. That way, if the town decides that they don't want to spend the $25,000 to fix the roof, or the $25,000 to fix the intercom system, they can vote no. And then it won't affect the operating budget of the school. It won't make us go back to another town meeting, make us go back to another election. So this way, you're only voting on the operating budget of the school, and in the June meeting, you get to vote whether you want to fix the roof and whether you want to put in a new intercom system. But it doesn't affect the operating budget of the school.
So then the roof doesn't affect the maintenance of the building at all, that's what you're saying?
It's a capital expenditure. We now have a 20-year-old building where we don't pay a mortgage payment anymore, and we're going to have to start repairing it. So what we're going to do is ask the town to decide, do we want to spend $25,000 on the roof? Do we want to spend $25,000 on the intercom system? Just like we asked, do we want to spend $50,000 on the fire truck? It's a town building. The money, whether it's on the school warrant or a town warrant, the money's coming from the taxpayers of the town. This way, they get to say, no, we don't want to fix the roof. Yes, we want to fix the roof. If it goes in here, they don't like the number, or they don't want to fix the roof, they vote no. The whole thing has to go back to another meeting, and it has to go back to another election again.
And that's just specifically on the capital expenditure?
Right, just these 2 big items. So then, it's not part of the operating budget. It's got to be fixed. Do we want to fix it this year? It doesn't have to be fixed right now, but we want to fix it before it leaks and ruins its floor. So the town needs to decide whether they want to spend an extra $25,000.
So isn't that what maintenance usually is? It's fixing it before it goes bad?
No, we're trying to fix a 20-year-old building. We can't put that into a maintenance operating budget. Just like we couldn't put the generator into the operating budget. Now, once the generator was put in, the town voted $45,000 to put the generator in. Now the school has that in their operating budget. They're paying for the fuel, they're paying for the maintenance, and it's part of their operating budget. And that is included in here. But that $50,000 or $45,000 to install that generator was not included in the budget, just like these other things aren't going to be. And as the years go on, we're going to have to review more and more things here, and the town will have to decide those individual items. So that it doesn't come down to, we want you to come down on your operating budget, so you're going to take away from students, or you're going to take away from programs. This is, do we want to fix the roof? Do we want to fix the intercom system?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, maintenance is maintenance on any building.
Okay, Andy, you're going to talk about this? We're still on Article 10.
Just to reiterate the fact that these 2 items are above and beyond the operating budget. Since I've been here, I came aboard in 2007, That year, there was capital improvement money, and that was for the surfacing of the playground. That was either a $20,000 or a $25,000 improvement. That was not included in the operational budget. What you're voting on is the operational budget for this year. This is capital improvement money.
Isn't maintenance part of the operating budget?
What
I mean, it's under here on the warrant article, right?
I can't explain it to you, Ray, any differently than we've all tried. I mean, there's a difference between an operational budget and capital improvement. You know, originally, we had a 10-year plan in place for capital projects, and we have slowly been picking away at that list. The last 2 years, we haven't earmarked any money for capital improvement, which defers your long-term big maintenance ticket items. If the people choose to defer the maintenance in June, that's fine, but I'm bringing the needs to the town and letting them know what the building needs.
Okay, so
Further questions? Go ahead.
I guess I'm just kind of confused here because it's a capital expenditure, you really don't need it. It's not part of the maintenance, so if the town says no, then the roof goes. What is the condition of the roof? I mean, is it something
Ray,
that has...
it's the same thing as the fire department did last year. They needed $50,000 they wanted us to put aside for a new fire truck. We could say it's maintenance, we want to keep fixing that truck, but we want you to save some of that maintenance money to buy a new fire truck. Instead of putting it into the operating budget, the money that they need to run throughout the year, they're asking for additional items on another time. And that's the reason for doing that. If he were to add $50,000 to his maintenance budget, he could get that, if we voted this in here, and then at the end of the time, everybody says, no, the school budget's too high, then the whole school budget gets voted down, not just the maintenance part. So that's why we're doing it this way, so the town has a choice on whether they want to fix these things now or they want to wait for another year. Just like the fire department's doing with the fire trucks, just like the dump does when they need things down there, they put them in separate articles. But when they do it on the town floor, you vote for the compactor, you vote for the fire truck. But you can't do that the way the school budget is set up and the way the rules for the school budget. It's all or nothing. So this way, we're giving the people a choice on $50,000 on 2 different items.
Yeah, the choice that I see that you're giving the people is you're asking them to raise the money for the school, for their operating budget, and then you're coming back and you're asking people again to give money to the school again for something that's totally different. How come it can't be lumped up into one situation so we know what the bottom line is and what you're asking us to raise funds for? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, any other comments or questions on Article 10? Seeing none, the motion on Article 10 is to adopt the school committee's recommendation. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. Make your hands down. Those opposed? Article 10 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 11, see what's on the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for debt service and other commitments. School committee recommends 0. Warrant and Finance committee recommends 0. Judy.
Make a motion that we accept the school committee's recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the school committee's recommendation. Are there questions or comments? So, Judy, I guess this is where the mortgage gets paid off, so we have no debt service. Is that the conclusion? Okay, all right. This should be a good thing.
It is a good thing.
All right, thank you.
We need improvements, right?
All of the motion on Article 11 is to adopt the motion as recommended by the school committee. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 11 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 12, to see what's on the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for all other expenditures. School committee recommends $126,457. Warrant Finance committee recommends $126,457. Judy.
I make a motion we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the school committee's recommendation on Article 12. Are there questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion on Article 12 is to adopt the school committee's recommendation. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 12 passes as recommended by the school committee. So Article 13 and 14 raise funds for the proposed school budget. 13. I'm going to read down through this, through the recommendations, and not read the explanation unless somebody feels that they want to do that. Article 13, to see what sum the municipality will appropriate for the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten through grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, $3,792,770. To see what sum the municipality will raise as a municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten through grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15688. School committee recommends $3,608,618. Warrant Finance Committee recommends $3,608,618. Judy.
I make a motion to accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Article 13 as recommended by the school committee. Are there questions? Seeing none, the motion on Article 13 is to adopt the school committee's recommendations. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. Thank you. Hands down those opposed. Article 13 passes as recommended by the school committee. Article 14, and this is the one that requires a written ballot. So we're going to go through the recommendations, and everybody's got their ballot, which is, we talked about before, the white card with the yes or no on it. So this is a yes or no question. Check one or the other, then you have a box, I assume, we have a box that will collect them in. So Article 14 is as follows. To see what sum the municipality will raise and appropriate in additional local funds, the recommendation is for $1,178,306 that exceed the state's essential programs and services allocation model by, and the recommendation is $1,090,384 as required to fund the budget recommended by the school committee. The school committee recommends $1,178,306 for additional local funds and gives the following reasons for exceeding the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $1,090,384. The essential programs and services allocation model does not fully support all of the costs of a K through 12 program. These funds support programming not included in the essential programs and services model. The Warrant Finance Committee recommends an amount which is $1,178,306. So we need a motion to do this. Sorry, Judy.
Make a motion we accept the Warrant Finance Committee's recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the Warrant Finance Committee's recommendation on Article 14. Okay, so now we go to marking your ballot, and I guess Jennifer's going to be up here to collect them. And you bring make sure you bring your purple card with you. No card, no ballot. While all of you are voting, we have some folks over near the side wall that are trying to raise some money for chairs for the town hall. More comfortable seating. Barbara, Marion, raise your hands, thank you. If you choose to help them out. Also outside, there's some young people raising funds, I think, for Odyssey of the Mind trip, since our teams were somewhat successful. Somewhat, because they were very successful. So I think they're outside in the walkway coming in. Your support would be appreciated for those two events. Okay, has everybody turned their ballot in? Okay, I think we're set. I don't see anybody that's still got a ballot that wants to turn it in. So we're closing the polls and we'll count the votes. In the meantime, Let's go on to Article 15, which is the summary article. Article 15 summarizes the proposed school budget. So Article 15, see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2011, and ending June 30th, 2012, from the school department's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. Non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools. School committee recommends $4,971,076. Warrant Finance Committee recommends $4,971,076. Judy.
Mr. Moderator, I make a motion that we accept the school committee's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the school committee's recommendation on Article 15. Are there questions or comments? Paul.
There was a question asked earlier about the total budget for this year as compared to last year to be able to properly assess the additional 2 warrant articles that are going to be at the town meeting. This particular budget, this is your gross budget, and it is a little more than $42,000 less than last year's operating budget.
Other comments or questions on Article 15? Seeing none, the motion on Article 15 is to adopt the school committee's recommendation. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 15 passes as recommended by the school committee. Articles 16 through 18 authorize expenditures of grants and other receipts. Article 16, shall the school committee be authorized to expend such other sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for school purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of funds not previously appropriated. School committee recommends adoption of the article. Warrant Finance Committee recommends adoption of the article. Judy.
Make a motion that we adopt the article.
Second.
The motion is to adopt the article as written. It's been moved and seconded. Are there questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion on Article 16 is to adopt the article as written. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 16 is adopted as written. Article 17. To see if the town will appropriate the receipts of certain federal and state grants and carry any previous balances for the following special revenue accounts: Title 1A, Local Entitlement, Title 2D, Title 2A, and then Preschool. School Committee recommends to adopt the article. Adoption of the article. Warrant Finance Committee recommends the same adoption of the article. Judy.
I make a motion that we adopt the article.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Article 17 as written. Are there questions and comments on Article 17? Seeing none, the motion on Article 17 is to adopt the article as written. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your card. Thank you. Cards down. Those opposed. Article 17 passes as written. Okay, before we go on, we have one remaining school article. The results of Article 14 secret ballot are yes 41, no 4. So Article 18, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the following revenues, balances carried, and fund transfers to cover the expenditures appropriated in the previous articles. Remaining fund balances required to be raised by taxation. School undesignated fund balance is 0. School nutrition revenue, $65,000. General purpose aid, estimated $184,151. EDU jobs fund, $53,470. State agency, 0. Medicaid, 0. A total of $302,621. School committee recommends adoption of the article. Warrant Finance Committee recommends the same adoption of the article. Judy.
I make a motion we adopt the article as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Article 18 as written. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, the motion on Article 18 is to adopt the article. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Take your hands down, those opposed. Article 18 is adopted as written. So now we're moving on to Article 19, which is entitled an ordinance to amend Acton's existing warrant and finance committee ordinance. So I am...
Make a motion, we waive the reading.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second on that? Okay, so we are operating without objection. We'll adopt that. So we read the title of it, and there'll be plenty of opportunity to comment on this, and it's been properly noticed, so we'll go ahead. So the motion, let's see if I can get to that.
I move adoption of Article 19 as recommended by the Warrant and Finance Committee.
Yes. I'm trying to find the motions. Okay, so we're looking at the bottom, well, the pages aren't numbered, so the Warrant and Finance Committee recommends adoption of the article. A motion is to adopt the Warrant and Finance Committee's recommendation. The second was, I think I heard a second from the selectman, Marissa. Are there comments or questions on this article, Article 19? Paul?
My intent is to, especially because there was no public hearing on this, to explain a little bit about why it exists and where it came from. Essentially, when I joined the Warrant and Finance Committee in my first term at the last town meeting, one of my first questions upon joining was, okay, what can we do and what can't we do? Especially in the light of what had occurred last year, my interest was in keeping conflict to a minimum, and basically the way to do that is so that everybody knows from the same book and page what the duties of the Warrant and Finance Committee are. And come to find out that we were operating off of an ordinance from 1986. And before that, there was an ordinance from 1972. So ultimately, it proved that the 1986 ordinance trumped the 1972 ordinance, but it was still what I consider to be inadequate for the purpose. So last fall, we worked as a committee on developing an ordinance that would help to define what our job is. And to that end, we had a meeting with the Board of Selectmen. It included past chairs of the Warrant and Finance Committee, basically answering a set of questions we had about basically what the job is. And the ordinance was drafted with that in mind. We worked on it for a bit. Around the turn of the year, I think early January, it was pointed out that as currently drafted, the new ordinance precludes the committee to draft or to author warrant articles. My opinion at that time was, and it still is now, that a warrant article and an ordinance are two different things, so therefore, yeah, we shouldn't have a problem drafting an ordinance. However, since it was perceived that some portion of the town body quite possibly would have the same objection, and for that reason might vote it down, it was turned over to me as a member of the town, not as a chair of the Warrant and Finance Committee, but just as a member at large of the town. A couple of weeks later, it was turned over to the Board of Selectmen. So the Board of Selectmen are charged with drafting warrant articles, and they moved this ordinance to completion, and that included a legal review. So what you see in front of you is a compendium of several different groups. At each stage of the game, it was changed somewhat. And I would say that what we have in front of us, for several good and valid reasons, is much better than what is currently in effect in the town. I'm not going to read the whole thing. If you'd like, I can read you actually the one that's currently in effect. Not necessarily planning on doing that unless there's an overwhelming desire to do so. But I will tell you the key points, the key advantages of this ordinance. First of all, it is very clear that the Warrant and Finance Committee is advisory only. In past years, we have had, and including the current year that has not yet expired, we have had warrant articles. Specifically, the one that comes to mind is the one that discusses allowing the Board of Selectmen to expend up to $15,000 with the consent of the Warrant and Finance Committee. We cannot offer consent. We can offer only advice. So any future warrant articles that would be written in a similar manner would be written with the recommendation of or with the advice of the Warrant and Finance Committee, not with the consent. So essentially, we provide our advice, and the Board of Selectmen can do as they will with that advice. The second element, and this is very important to us this year, is that we're adding 2 alternate members elected by the town body each year. So instead of 6 standing members of the Warrant and Finance, we will have 6 standing members and 2 alternate members. The advantage of that is that if we happen to have any attrition during the course of the year, and we have had that in spades this year for a number of reasons, then the alternate members can simply step in. They have been duly elected by the town body. It's a much more straightforward process than relying on the selectmen appointments to handle those types of situations. So that would give us, starting out in the course of the year, a total of 8 members of the committee. We have a quorum of 4, and we prefer to have up to 6 votes at any given meeting. So that would give us the provision to allow that to happen. We started off with the possibility of maybe doing some type of a recall element, similar to how the school committee does things. But it turned out that they are an executive board, and we are not. And it was getting way more complicated than we needed to, and it was a very good reason to vote it down. So we sort of dropped that whole thing, and we're essentially relying on those extra 2 members to get us through rough waters. Third thing is that selectmen, we're making clear that selectmen are not committee members. There was a line in there that said something like, the selectmen are non-voting members of the Warrant and Finance Committee. They are, in fact, not members of the Finance Committee at all. And then the last point was that we've added a section in which it specifies how the appointments occur from the Board of Selectmen. This year, and this is a good example, this year we've had 2 appointments from the Board of Selectmen. One of them was for a 1-year, a member whose term is expiring this coming year, this 2 months from now, 3 months from now. And the other one is for a member whose term was going to expire in 2012. Those 2 appointments are entirely replacing the elected members' terms. So, for example, the first member whose term is expiring in 2011, the appointed member for that person their term is expiring in 2011. The second member, their term is expiring in 2012. So an appointment by the Warrant and Finance Committee under current guidelines, legally, this is per state guidelines, per legal review, is expiring in 2012, despite the fact that we have a town meeting coming up in 2011 that could do something about it. So what this ordinance says specifically is that when appointments are made, they are only for the duration of the term of that, duration of the remaining time until the next regular town meeting. So, for instance, in this situation with the 2012 expiration term, the selectmen would appoint until 2011 June meeting, and at that June meeting, we would elect an extra member to fill out the rest of that term. And certainly, given that we would like the town body to be doing most of these things and not the selectmen, that, as far as I'm concerned, is a much better way to go. So those are the key elements in what this ordinance provides and which the old one did not.
Additional questions? Comments? Ted?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the reason that we're doing this here tonight at the school meeting is if it is passed, it will go into effect and we'll be voting for the additional members on the June floor. So then the warrant and finance will go to the 8 members then.
Questions, Ray?
For the warrant and finance committee, those members that are on the board, and I understand your predicament of people not showing up and having your alternates being able to fill those positions. I'm looking at the vacancies, number 3 vacancies, A on number 2, where it talks about that the Board of Selectmen will appoint. If these are elected positions, how or is it, my question there to you, sir, is it legal for them to appoint someone into a area that has been, a person has been voted into by the town, if that person's not showing up, is it legal for the selectmen to actually just appoint someone there, or should that person be recalled?
I'm going to go, I'm not going to offer any advice on that. That's not my role with the selectmen.
In the occasion that someone resigns or in the case of death, the only positions that the Board of Selectmen cannot appoint are school committee members and selectmen. So it is completely legal in the case of a resignation or death, the Board of Selectmen appoint for the remainder of the term. That's state statute.
Then why do we vote for the warrant and finance people at the town meeting?
They're
I mean,
elected.
why is there an election held?
They are elected on town floor, but these appointments that the Board of Selectmen are doing are based on resignations. These are people that have resigned in the middle of their term that they were elected for, so it is the Board of Selectmen's responsibility to appoint for the remainder of the term. It's because the individual chose not to, go through the remainder of their elected term, or has to appoint.
And there's letters of resignation on the, I guess I'm just looking at this
You
year's.
can come to my office, I have all of them on file. The 2 appointments that they recently did were resignations, I do have them in writing. I can assure you that I will not swear anybody in to replace someone unless I have a resignation on file.
I can address that to some degree. I want to make clear that essentially what we're down to is 4 active members right now. We started off with 6 elected members. During the course of the year, we had 1 resignation, and for that resignation, we had an appointment. We had 1 death, and for that death, we had an appointment. And we have 2 current no-shows, and for them, we're just making do. They're still members, they were duly elected, they're not being recalled, we have no intention of recalling with a new ordinance. And essentially what we have is 4 members now doing the job, and when we had 6 elected originally.
That would be something that we should address then. If we have members that are, as far as no-shows, and they're not doing something that they've been elected to do, is there a process in place, that we can put into place as far as recalling them from the selectmen's point of view? Because
Yeah, the recall ordinance we have now affects every elected official, so if somebody wants to recall them, except school board, I'm sorry. If anybody wants to recall them, then they can start a petition and bring it in and do a recall, then we have a vote and recall. Because we have 4 members, which is a quorum, who happen to have showed up to all the meetings, both for the school and for the selectmen this year, we're able to get our budget forward this year. Both the school budget and the town budget will be able to make it in time because of the 4 members that took over. The 2 members that are not showing up, there is no procedure to do anything about them other than recall. So with this new alternates, if somebody's not showing up, one of the alternates who was voted by the townspeople moves into that position. So we're trying to create a better situation so that should this happen again in the future, we don't have 4 out of 6 that are doing all the work and the other 2 are just holding a seat and not showing up.
Other questions on Article 19?
One other point is that those 2 members that are not participating currently, their terms are up this June. So it was really not deemed worthwhile and cost-effective for us to be spinning our wheels and spending money to recall them when, in fact, they're going to be gone in a couple months anyway.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm from away, so forgive my ignorance, please, Mr. Moderator.
Are you a resident of Acton?
I am for about 4 years, but I'm from
Okay.
California, things are a lot different. I just don't understand, the town public was notified that there's going to be a meeting tonight about the school budget, but this is not about the school budget. This is passing an ordinance that's think unrelated to the school budget. I'm just asking, is this a town meeting? So it's appropriate to pass an ordinance that people haven't been notified about?
It is, and if you, we have a copy of the actual posting that was listed, and it does include the amendment to the warrant finance, so it did meet all the legal requirements.
Other questions about Article 19? Seeing none, the motion on Article 19 is to adopt the Warrant Finance Committee's recommendation. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. Hands down. Those opposed. Article 19 passes as recommended by the Warrant Finance Committee. Thank you all for your kind attention. I think we'll accept the motion to adjourn. Judy? Yes, wait a minute. I forgot that. Thank you. All right, here's what's happening. I'm just anxious to get on the road again. Too anxious. After the conclusion of the vote on the warrant articles, the meeting will be recessed until Tuesday, April 12th, 2011, at 8 a.m., at which time the polls for the referendum question below will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Acton Town Hall, 35 H Road, Acton, Maine, 04001. And this is the question that goes to referendum. Do you favor approving the Acton School Department budget for the upcoming school years that was adopted at the latest municipal school unit budget meeting on April 5th, 2011? And that includes the locally raised funds that exceed required local contribution as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. Judy?
I make a motion that the town meeting go into recess until 8 o'clock on April 12th, 8 a.m. April 12th.
Second. All those in favor of recess, please raise your cards. Thank you. Okay, the clerk reminds me that absentee ballots are now available. Is that correct? So those who choose to vote by absentee, the ballots are available. Everybody can turn their purple cards in at the doors of the meeting. We'd appreciate it to be able to recycle those.